Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Out, and you are watching The Political Vigilante. Man, we've had crazy attacks by balloons. Chinese balloons are invading America, and the poor defenseless Pentagon is just beside itself. What is the little Pentagon going to do? This little teeny governmental agency barely getting by, barely has money for just basic needs and supplies, is being attacked by vicious, God only knows what Chinese balloons. And these balloons are just crazy. And the Pentagon has recently had to start a GoFundMe just to get basic supplies. The Pentagon barely can get by. I mean, just barely gets by. And I don't know what kind of technology we're going to need to bring down balloons. It's scary that there's balloons coming into American airspace. It's really scary. So hopefully, when we watch the CNN segment, we'll see what this is really about. Well, it's two things. One, we need more money for balloon research. I heard them say, so you're going to hear some bullshit about we need updated radar. Oh, really? We've got old radar. Really? We outspend the next 12 countries combined on military. We just approved an $858 billion budget just for the year of 2023. That was approved in December. So we're sure we got old radar. We got laser guided, top of the shelf, but cutting edge technology for everything, but we're using old radar. Okay. Totally believable. Yes, we need more money for radar, and we need a good false flag. I'll show you what this false flag is really about. But let's look at this. Let's look at how the American media is covering this whole balloon attack. And now we've just been willy-nilly shooting down anything in the sky. We don't even know what it is. So here's this. First, let's listen to this guy, what this clown had to say.
Businesses nationwide.
Of course, we have an article, an ad that I can't even. I'm going to talk over it because you're not paying me, phone company. You're not paying me. The latest of the unidentified object shot down over North America.
Not so small business.
So I have to go to their website and do it because if I do it through YouTube, they will say I'm stealing their content, even though I'm playing it and it's news and we all have the right to play their news.
Switch to business internet.
There you go. You got your Verizon ad in there, CNN. There you go.
From the network America
relies on. It's way too long. Nobody cares. I'm talking over.
The administration thus far says there's no indication of a connection between these three downed objects and the initial Chinese surveillance balloon. What is the basis, in your view, for that conclusion, as preliminary as it may be right now?
I don't think you can make that conclusion yet. I think we need to see from the wreckage and from the forensics of the wreckage what it is and where it came from. That said, my hunch is that these are probably not Chinese surveillance balloons. I mean, the axis of advance, if you will, came from the north as compared to the southwest with the initial Chinese spy balloon. My gut tells me these are probably weather balloons or scientific research balloons or something like that. But boy, if it is another Chinese balloon, this really says a lot about what's going on in China and what we're up against, if indeed that is the case.
So how would you rule that out?
I think, again, we have to do the forensics. We have to find out what's going on. I'm glad to see that the administration has taken a more proactive approach. They're clearly discriminating what's happening earlier. They've recalibrated their instrumentation, and
they're discriminating. Now they're just shooting any balloon-like thing out of the sky. Was it a surveillance balloon, or did somebody just have a birthday party and released a bunch of Mylar balloons into the sky? Far be it from the United States military or its police to overreact with excessive force. We don't do that in America. No, totally. This guy sounds legit.
Decisions quicker. I think that's a good thing when it comes to airspace and our sovereignty. And I suspect many other Western countries, NATO allies, are doing the same.
So do you believe what Admiral Kirby said? One of the reasons why we are seeing more of these is just perhaps we're looking for them more, and even this change in filter and enhanced technology. Do you think it's as benign as that?
Absolutely. I think, look, the administration was caught off guard last week or so with the Chinese spy balloon. There was a political backlash to what happened. So
how can this guy say this straight-faced? The Chinese spy balloon, the administration was caught off guard, and now there are a flurry of balloons in the sky. We have just drone striked a Chuck E. Cheese because there was a Christmas perceived to be a Chinese balloon party in there. None of the kids were Chinese, but one of them seemed like he might have liked Chinese food. There were fortune cookies there and balloons, so we just assumed it was a Chinese spy balloon. So we blew up a Chuck E. Cheese, and we're taking this to DEFCON threat level 9.
he went back, recalibrated what it's looking for, adjusted its filters. The reporting was probably beefed up as well, and so you have a lot more folks at NORAD and in other surveillance places looking more closely at our aerospace, and we're identifying things that maybe in the past we either ignored or overlooked or disregarded, and now we're seeing a lot more of these things pop. It is really going to drive, and we see it happening now, a review of our policy and then the protocols and procedures by which we act on aircraft entering our airspace, whether it's manned or unmanned, military, civilian, research, non-research, you name it. I think it's going to drive a big policy review that seems to be overdue at this point.
Translation: more money for military. That's what he just said. That's what he just said. Like, oh my God, what if kites start being used? What if the Chinese start making paper airplanes and throwing them into American airspace? Balloons, kites, paper airplanes. I don't know. I mean, we start to ramp up the information, and really NORAD's tracking balloons. Okay, well, watch out, Santa. You're going to get gunned out of the sky next Christmas. And lawmakers frustrated over the lack of information from the Biden administration on unidentified objects. There was some general today who said they said, is this aliens? He goes, I can't rule that out. We still have questions outstanding as to what we know. We'll be asking probing questions tomorrow when they come in classified setting. Like, they're just unreal. I think the American people, need to hear from the president. Yeah, he hasn't been talking. This is Republican Mitt Romney warned against getting too excited about balloons. Oh, Mitt Romney's the voice of reason, guys. I think we get a little hyped up over objects that don't quite understand what they are. Balloons, weather balloons. So you don't know what a weather balloon is? And let's find out what they are before we get too excited. Say the public should not be concerned. Well, this makes me think it's actually alien spacecraft and we shot it out of the sky and we're saying weather balloons. That was the old thing in the 70s. They'd say, oh, it's a weather balloon. That was a spaceship. That wasn't a weather balloon. It moved in a way. So were these spaceships? So this is, no, not that. Let's watch this now. This is China's response to it. So I'm not saying China, the first balloon might have clearly been a spy balloon. China's going to claim, oh, that was a mistake. It flew out by mistake. I don't believe that. I think China's trying to spy on us, but we spend more money on spying than anybody else. I'll show you that stat in a minute, but this was, listen to this. This was, more balloon gate.
News contributor and former State Department official. Steve, good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. A senior U.S. official tells ABC News the Chinese spy balloon created this new state of vigilance. So is there truly an increase in the number of these flying objects, or are we just now spotting and reacting to them more than before?
Wait, if you remember, the intelligence community and the military knew about the Chinese balloon about 3 days before the White House did. And so there's a little bit of, we're not going to get fooled again here. So they've tweaked their sensors to actually look for these balloons in ways that they hadn't before. And so we don't know whether these are more balloons being launched over the United States or if we're just seeing them until we can get to the balloons.
So just by the way, those are like, $100 million aircraft. But we're getting outsmarted by a balloon. Okay. I'm glad we're spending just hundreds of billions, trillions of dollars on all this state-of-the-art technology, but we can't spot a balloon. Great. Have you guys tried binoculars? You ever tried that? Just to someone looking up in the sky with the binoculars? You guys ever tried that? I don't know. I'm coming up with great. I just want us to be safe from another balloon attack.
Ground and analyze the wreckage. We won't know for sure whether they're innocuous or they are indeed more spy balloons.
And either way, it is alarming. So how does the U.S. government actually go about investigating who's behind these objects and whether they're a serious threat?
We've got to get to what's left on the ground of these balloons or in the water. I mean, all of these have come down in very remote areas. It's winter, it's dark, it's cold, and so getting to them is going to be hard, and recovering them is
and easy for us to cover crap up and just say it was a balloon or whatever. Maybe it was our own crap. Maybe it was alien. I don't know, but maybe it's something that we're just making a big deal out of.
even harder. But we don't get answers until we do just that.
Steve Ganyard, we always appreciate your insights. Thank you.
Steve Ganyard, Stevie Gans. Oh, I don't want to listen to these Verizon jackwagons again. But the suspected spy balloon, week-long traverse. So it went over the... It was floating over our country for a week. Nobody saw it. It's weird. Right around February 3rd, this is when, right when it got over here, that's when it became really noticeable. I wonder if it had anything to do with Seymour Hersh's article that came out. How America took out the Nord Stream pipeline. Remember when we talked about this on Thursday? Right? Which would have been the, what, the 9th? Yeah, Thursday the 9th. So let's go back to this. Let me just show you real quick. So Thursday the 9th. So right around this thing was happening. No, they either knew about it or didn't care, or they're not paying attention or whatever. And then around the 4th and the 5th, it became big. And now they're talking about it even more because Seymour Hersh released this article saying, basically showing, and we talked about it on Government Secrets last week, how America took out the Nord Stream pipeline. And Seymour Hersh is a great journalist. He called out the crimes of the Vietnam War. But as he's called out more of the American empire under Bush, under Obama, under Trump, under Biden, he gets more and more marginalized. So this should be the story that is occupying our 24/7 news cycle. America, there's hard evidence. People within the Pentagon, within the Bush administration said to Seymour Hersh, right? There's documents. Like, it's amazing. Seymour Hersh, a very respected journalist, comes up with this. And there was, as it says here, from its earliest days, Nord Stream 1 was seen by Washington and the anti-Russian NATO partners as a threat to Western dominance. When the Nord Stream pipeline first happened, and it's like, oh, Russia's blowing up their pipeline. It was like, it didn't make sense. Remember that? It didn't make sense. We all went, well, why would Russia blow up its own revenue stream? Why would Russia do that? It doesn't make sense that Russia would do that, right? It doesn't make sense at all that they would blow up. So we all said it doesn't make sense. And I suspected, all of us suspected, that maybe this was like America did this themselves. So now Seymour Hersh, not some crackpot YouTuber, whatever, a trusted journalist with sources inside the Pentagon, sources inside the Department of Defense, support within the military, said, yeah, that we did this. And it's funny, the Nord Stream pipeline, and this is what Seymour Hersh puts in his article, it blew up right after we did our naval war games in the Baltic Sea. So clearly we had people go down there during our war games, which is also muscle flexing and threatening to Russia. No, I don't like the fact that Russia invaded Ukraine, but we pushed them into this. It makes no sense for Russia to blow up its own pipeline. So this should be dominating the 24-hour news cycle, and it isn't. So we have this crazy balloon. Oh, the balloons are back. Oh my God. And then let's look at this. this is from the ACLU, and this is something that the Chinese minister said. And China's saying the first balloon got lost or whatever. I don't believe that. I'm sure they're trying to spy on us, but nobody spies on anybody more than America. And this is the point the Chinese bring up, which is absolutely true. And this is something our media will not bring up because, oh, we have this expert and this analyst. They're all people from the intelligence community. They're all people that work for the military-industrial complex. So they have a vested interest in keeping this hype train going. Documents confirm how the NSA's surveillance procedures threaten Americans' privacy. Newly released documents confirm that critics have long suspected that the National Security Agency, a component of the Defense Department, is engaged in unconstitutional surveillance of American communications, including their telephone calls and emails. The documents show that the NSA is conducting sweeping surveillance of Americans' internal communications, that it is acquiring many purely domestic communications as well, and that the rules that supposedly protect American privacy are weak and riddled with exceptions. The FISA Amendment Act, signed into law by President Bush in 2008, expanded the government's authority to monitor Americans' electronic communications. And I will add that then Obama expanded this even more in the AUMF. Obama expanded the surveillance state. It's crazy. He was worse than Bush. I didn't think that was possible, but he was. No one's talking about this. It's just these Chinese balloons. And it's always framed in this, America's just minding its business. Everyone's good. No, we're the problem. We're the problem. It's insane. The procedures permit the NSA to monitor Americans in international communications in the course of surveillance targeted at foreigners abroad. So if you've got family or friends in another country, they can listen to it. The procedures allow the surveillance of Americans by failing to ensure that the NSA surveillance targets are in fact foreigners outside the United States. The procedures permit government to conduct surveillance that has no real connection to the government's foreign intelligence interests. It just goes on and on. Right? And nobody spends more money on this than we do. Nobody spends more money on this than we do. So the media should be screaming about Seymour Hersh's article, how America blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, which is an act of war. We should be talking about that. We should be like, people should be screaming, holding the Biden administration accountable. What are you doing? You're going to get us into World War III. No, there's some crazy balloons. Balloon, balloon, balloon. I've always said this before on this show, and if you're new to the show, I want you to remember this. Two things. One, follow the money, connect the dots, get the truth. So this balloon thing is to get more money for new radar. We have old radar. We have old I find it hard to believe we have old, outdated anything when it comes to the military. And if we do, where has this money been going that we get, this trillions of dollars? Bipartisan support for military increases. We've had military increases every year since 9/11. Every year. Doesn't matter if there's a Republican or Democrat in the White House or who controls us. It doesn't matter at all. At all. So there's that. And then when there's something dominating the news cycle, I always ask, and you need to ask yourself this, what are they deliberately not talking about? Sometimes it's manufactured nonsense like balloons. Sometimes it's something legitimate, like Roe v. Wade was a legitimate thing, but there's always something else they're not talking about. What are they not talking about? They're not talking about how America blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. We blew it up, which is an act of war. If Russia blew up one of our pipelines and we even had a shred of evidence that they did, we would be going bananas. We are the evil empire. I'm not defending any awful stuff Russia or China has and are doing, but we're worse. It's that simple. We're worse. And the media, it's always a false flag. It's always a distraction. I'm saying that everything they say is fake. I'm saying they deliberately only cover certain things. They deliberately distract us with other things. They could be covering something that's legitimate. They could be covering something that needs to be talked about, but they can't cover anything else. So I was watching CNN this morning. Oh, balloon, balloon, balloon. And all these experts coming on with the balloon. We need new balloon technology or whatever. Follow the money, connect the dots, get the truth. shave your knuckles for justice, and then we make Gotham great again. Boom. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. We are still in our 9th month of demonetization from YouTube. So support what we're doing at patreon.com/Graham Elwood or rockfin.com/Graham Elwood, which is a blockchain cryptocurrency platform. It's free to sign up, and there's a premium level at $10 a month. And for that, you get everybody on the platform's premium content. Myself, Lee Camp, Ron Placone, Jimmy Dore, Whitney Webb, Kim Iverson, Abby Martin, and many, many others. You can also support what we're doing at Venmo at Graham-Elwood and go to GrahamElwood.com. We have a PayPal button and a PO box. I also have crypto wallets, which are all in the show notes. Thanks for supporting what we do.